pen, I think.
Good. And welcome to the July 18, 2018 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Before we get started, I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your devices that you may have with you. And also, just say as a general rule, we'd be happy to hear anyone who would like to speak on any of these matters, but it is required that you come to the podium, identify yourself, and use the microphone. And that's for the benefit of our TV audience. All right, on the agenda, minutes. We do not have any minutes for review tonight. And then
on the August 8th, Madam Chairman, I apologize.
that's quite all right. We will defer those until then. And we have two requests for continuance that did not make it onto the agenda in time. One is a request for a hearing under a notice of intent. It is the Donald and Nancy Collar on 11 Foster Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to remove wood bulkhead wall and replace with 100 linear feet of stone riprap wall, remove wood ramp and steps, and construct stone steps, and construct 40 linear feet of fiber rolls and all associated excavating and grading. And I understand that the applicant would like a continuance until August 1st.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
All right.
So moved. Reason. Second.
Excuse me?
Reason.
The staff had some concerns with the plans. We spoke with the engineer the other day after we visited the site. We're meeting with him Monday
Okay.
to review alternate plans.
Fair enough.
All right. And the other request for continuance is,
Here the date of the continuance.
I'm sorry, August 1.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The other continued request for continuance is for a continued hearing under a notice of intent. Peter and Ann Brundette, 27 Sunfish Lane, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise and rebuild the existing cottage, upgrade the septic system, construct a driveway, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. And this request apparently is the second continuance to September 12th.
Correct.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All right. Do you want to hear about this one, Courtney?
Sure.
Okay, Steve
No, I'm
does.
okay. It's fine.
Do you, Steve?
Why the
Why?
Why the late continuance?
so far, yeah.
They're reconsidering some of the options they presented to the commission.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So all those in favor, say
Aye.
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 Did we take a vote
Opposed?
on the other
Unanimous, so moved. That is
one? Whoops, I continued to.
September
Yeah, no.
12th.
Excuse me,
Yes,
what did you just say? Was
we're
con-
continuing the 27 Sunfish Lane
Oh, I'm sorry, let me correct that.
to September 12th.
All right, I was just answering a question on that issue and
Oh.
had it wrong.
Okay.
Me too.
All right, moving along. Request for determination of applicability for these kinds of applications. What is favorable to the applicant is a negative determination. It means that they do not have to, what they have submitted is adequate. They do not have to move on to a more rigorous level of review. So the first RDA is John D'Angelo, 12 Bayview Avenue, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to replace existing previously permitted deck, replace from front entry, and construct portico.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw, and the resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved. Second.
All right, any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Ralph and Sharon Parks, 51 Pondview Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to vista prune in accordance with FWR 10.18, Section 10B.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. The resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. J. Stein, 80G Little Island Road, West Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to conduct maintenance pruning to shrubs in accordance with FWR 1018-10B, maintain a 4-foot walking path, and to conduct invasive plant control by cutting and removing invasive vines.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question. I could be wrong about this, but the previous RDA cites the same portion of the regulations. One is for vista pruning, one is maintenance pruning.
Maintenance proving in a vista.
In a vista window? Okay,
vista
fine.
window.
All right, anything else from the board? Anything from the public? Okay, hearing nothing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Falmouth Hotel LLC, 291 Jones Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct additions and walks for handicapped accessibility.
Madam Chair, this application has been withdrawn and they'll file under a notice of intent.
All right, thank you. So no action necessary. Colt Simons Family Trust, 24 Millfield Street, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, for permission to perform routine maintenance to the existing licensed stone seawall.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. The resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second. Okay, any questions or comments on the board? Anything from the public? Hearing nothing, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. And one continued RDA, Stephen and Nicole Neal, 375 Sherwood Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a new garage, pump and remove existing septic system and replace with Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance to redesign the garage until August 1st.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? Hearing nothing, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. I'm sorry, August 1st, thank you. All right, we'll move now on to requests for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So the first one listed here, 11 Foster Road, has been continued to August 1. So we'll start this with Sherwood Drive LLC, care of Michael Sicone, 147 Sherwood Drive, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise the existing licensed pier, ramp, and float structures, and to construct a private residential 4 foot by 86 foot pier, ramp, and float, and 2 3-foot by 10-foot kayak racks. Hi, Raul.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant, Sherwood Drive LLC. The property is located at 145 Sherwood Drive. It's along the eastern shores of Great Pond. The project proposed for this notice of intent is removing the existing pier, ramp, and float, replacing it with a new pier, ramp, and float. The resources are land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage, salt marsh, and a coastal bank. The existing float and pier have a license through DEP. The float itself, it's on the elongated side, and it goes from water depth of approximately 0.8 feet to water depths of approximately 2 feet. The proposed float will increase the water depth at the shallower side of the float. For the majority, about close to a foot of additional depth. We're proposing to elevate the fixed pier, and to access the pier, we propose a landing and stairs. That way we don't have to travel by foot over the coastal bank. So the landing and the stairs will span the coastal bank and reach the elevated pier. Then from the elevated pier, we get to a ramp that will lead out to the proposed float. There are 2 proposed kayak racks along each side of the first span of the elevated pier. And although this proposed plan does not extend further than the existing float, I believe you would be hearing a little later that there is probably recommendations to extend it further into deeper waters. We are not objecting if the board agrees to that. We could probably extend it another 15 feet to reach deeper waters. That's if the board believes it's a benefit. At the moment, the plan that was submitted shows that we don't extend any further than the existing float. And we do provide foot traffic over the coastal bank by the stairs and the landing. If there's any question, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ralph. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, the staff's only concern, this was grandfathered under an RDA last year by this board. The only concern the staff has is that that float is only going to have maybe a foot of water underneath it.
Yeah.
Foot and a half of water. The board may want to consider extending that dock out further or requiring that dock because it's a float.
Right.
We have concerns with that. So the staff would not be, we wouldn't have too many concerns if we wanted to extend that out 10 feet or so to get it into deeper water, 10, 15.
Right.
The
Still
only
wouldn't
other-
comply, though.
Hmm?
Still wouldn't comply.
It still wouldn't comply, but at least be in deeper water. To get out to 3 feet, you're stretching because of that salt marsh. The docks south of that have to span that salt marsh to get into that 3 feet.
It would also be over 100 feet.
Yeah, so, the only other concern I have is, the salt marsh delineation, goes along the path that's currently being mowed and maintained, and I'm pretty sure that path is salt marsh, so I would put a condition that we stop mowing that path. And that was about it. Fairly straightforward.
All right.
There's something from the marine fisheries. Did you read that?
Oh, yes, I did read that, but you might want to read that into the record.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I mean,
It was
It's
interesting.
a little different than they've done before. Much of the piers are constructed over salt marsh vegetation. Then they talk about the importance of salt marsh for ecosystem services. MADMF offers the following comments for your consideration. A recent MADMF field survey found that light penetration increased with dock height for both traditional plank decking as well as graded decking designs. As a result, graded decking should not be used as a substitute for adequate height to width design characteristics. Docks set at a 1-to-1 height to width ratio result in the loss of approximately 50% of the underlying vegetation, while taller docks set at a 1.5-to-1 ratio had lesser impacts, resulting in about 30% losses to low marsh vegetation and no detectable impacts in the high marsh. To minimize impacts to marsh production, Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries recommends a 1.5-to-1 height-to-width ratio for the proposed dock over the salt marsh. The height for this ratio should be measured from the marsh surface to the base of the horizontal support stringer. Did you get a copy of that too?
We did. We were not ready for that kind of comment because it was the first time we actually hear that comment.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure the board is the first time or probably.
Yeah, this is
First
new.
time I've heard of it.
So it's always been 1-to-1 ratio, and that's what we were designing it for.
Right.
The 1.5 times would probably put all the piers pretty high up in the air, which is aesthetically it wouldn't be looking good. For this particular project, we're proposing grading. We have seen that the grading does allow light penetration better than standard decking. But we feel like 6 foot off the ground, and actually the 6 feet is measured to the bottom of the stringer, so the pier will be probably at elevation 7. The yard at this property is elevation 9, so you're probably getting a pier that's almost level with the yard. So it's kind of concerning to have such a high structure.
On the other hand, right next door is a pier that's very high and very long. So, I'm just throwing that out.
Something to be considered. Do you have anything else, Betsy?
I'll wait until you circle back.
All right.
Thank you.
Courtney?
No question.
Okay, Jamie?
Are the kayak racks only gonna be accessible from the pier?
That's true. The kayak racks will be off of the side rails, handrails of the pier.
Can't leave it off?
And that is pretty high, so you wouldn't be able to launch those kayaks from the ground.
Okay. And the utilities are already in place, lighting, power, water?
There is utilities on the site, so we're proposing just to keep the utilities that reach to that point.
Okay. And lastly, there's a set of concrete steps. Are they staying?
We don't propose to remove them. We believe that removing them will loosen up the soils of that coastal bank, and it'll probably promote some erosion in that particular location. What we're going to be doing is abandoning all the foot traffic that happens along the upper side of the salt marsh, which will allow for that salt marsh to actually creep up to that path. But because this pier doesn't propose any lateral access from the pier down, we feel if somebody wants to access the water, the steps are there rather than walking on dirt.
Thank you. I'm good.
Steve?
Yeah. I'm just curious about the permits for the existing dock. They had an interim license in 2002, and then something happened in April of last year?
Right, so Chapter 91 was issued. That was the last thing that was issued for that pier.
Okay, so that was just issued a year ago.
Yeah, right.
And someone came out and looked at that pier and issued a 91 on that.
The application was submitted and it was granted.
Okay. I share concern about the sitting in the salt marsh now. Anything would be an improvement. But thank you.
Kevin?
No, my questions have been answered. Thank you.
All right. Mark?
I still like the idea of pushing it out. The water is really shallow there. It's way beyond what we would normally permit these days.
Yes.
Secondly,
Gotta go a long way.
calling the existing float 149 square feet is kind of a stretch, because it's really a funny kind of shape of float. And so trying to make the new one fit less than that, well, we usually allow 100 square feet on a new float, so that's a little bigger than we might normally accept. As far as the kayak racks, I don't know, I guess my initial thought was let's move them out of 10 feet or so, just get them away from the fragmenta using the other plant life that's growing there, right in the marsh, and getting them out over the water. I like the idea of having kayak racks. I like the idea of having only accessible from the dock. That's the best way to keep the boats off the beach. As you were saying, that's a good way to go. That's all I have.
Raul, I may have missed it, but is there any place indicated on the plan for float storage off-season?
In the notice of intent, it was noted that the storage is going to be in an upland location. It's not.
On the property?
I don't know if it will be on the property, but it will be on an upland location. There's plenty of driveway on the property that it could be stored on the driveway side, but definitely on an upland location.
Jen?
I'm going to have to agree with Commissioner Gurney down there. I missed the fact that that float was a lot larger.
Yeah.
Raul, what's the current
too
size
large.
of the existing float?
149 square feet,
Of the existing?
yes. It's a
Has a very long
hammerhead.
T sticking
It's a
out.
hammerhead
You know,
shape.
50% more than we allow these days.
Right, so the proposed float is not bigger than the existing float. It goes further out and is reconfigured. So it's no longer an elongated, kind of like hammerhead float. It's more like a typical rectangular with a little T section for the ramp.
Something you can deliberate.
Right. Yeah, I'd also like to know something specific about the float storage. Big float. Yeah, right. Where's it gonna go and how will it be moved there?
Well, this type of flow will probably be barged out of the site and then stored either on the driveway or stored at some off-site location. From the site, it will be very difficult to try to get that float out of the water.
Okay. Is there, Betsy, did you have anything else?
I do have some things. You said there's a Chapter 91 license?
Yes.
Did you give it to us?
I believe a copy was sent in when that file was approved,
What file was approved?
the Chapter 91 application.
Yeah, was that
I did ask Jean to send me a copy. The other day, I'm not quite sure if we received it or not. Raul, do you have a copy of the Chapter 91?
Jim said it was reaffirmed last year, I guess.
Well,
Yeah.
I would like to see a copy. I would like to know why there's no lateral access.
I don't remember.
I thought all these Chapter 91s, I'm not saying you're responsible.
Face that way.
There is lateral access. The existing pier, it's so low to the ground, it actually starts off at the ground at mean high water.
Right.
Right,
So
well, I was there.
lateral access happens right at mean high water without the need of stairs.
So you're saying someone coming along is going to just step onto your dock and then step off your dock?
Probably not even necessary to step onto the dock, because the dock starts at mean high water seaward. The proposed dock will be elevated 5 feet off the mean high water line.
Access is underneath the dock, you say?
Right. For the proposed dock.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
All right. I agree with Mark that the kayak racks should be moved further out. I mean, why not? If you're going to take them and launch them off the end, why not have less amount to pull them? Are you going to do anything with the Phragmites?
There's nothing proposed for the Phragmites.
And I think it would be prudent of your client to remove those steps and revegetate that bank to discourage people from going down into the salt marsh there.
Anything else? Nothing else. All right, anybody else on the board? Do you have anything right here? Motion?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Need a second, and then we'll open it. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any comment or questions from the public on this application? And anything else from the board? All right, hearing nothing.
No.
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Chapter 91 license is number 14525.
Do you have a copy there, Raul, that you can submit into the record? It's not in the application.
Could you just make a copy and send it to Jen?
We can forward a copy to.
Yeah, I had asked Jean the other day, I'm not quite sure, I'm monitoring way too many emails right now, if she had sent it. So if you could just double check for Mary Raoul, that would be helpful, and we can put it in the record.
And another comment is, if the float is agreed by the board to be extended further out into the deeper water, we can push the kayak racks to the next bend of the elevated walkway. That would mean that the kayak racks will be over water rather than over the salt marsh.
Yeah, that would be much better.
Raoul, when you and I spoke this afternoon, how far out did you say it would need to go to reach?
So
to-
15 feet will get us to water depths of approximately 2.5, 2.7 feet. And if one considers that the flotation portion of the float is about 6 inches below grade, that will be below the water, that will give you about 2 foot of water below the float itself.
Excuse me, we're having a hearing here. If you want to have a conversation, please go out in the hallway. Thank you.
So approximately 15 feet will get us to having water depths underneath the structure itself of about 2 feet.
Yeah, well, we're gonna deliberate, and
Right.
then if we decide that, we'll ask you to give us a new plan.
Will that work for you, Raoul?
Deeper water will be better for the applicant and for the environment. So
Yeah,
we'll agree to
discuss
that.
it, And then, but that's what would happen.
We'll condition a revised plan.
And either way, we'd like the copy of the license. All right.
And we'll even give you the option, I'll tell you ahead, we'll even give you the option to take out those concrete steps and replant.
We'll be happy to have it as a condition if that's what the board feels like. My main concern is going to be erosion. As soon as you disturb those soils, until the new plantings take ground,
Right.
any run of water coming down that bank
Right, well,
will
you're gonna
start
talk
eroding
to,
it.
you're gonna talk to somebody who's very experienced. We have lots of experienced people who come in here and tell us they put all this special matting down and plant it right away and put grass, and I know you'll be able to find a solution.
All right. So, motion to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. So moved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raoul. Next, we have Jeffrey and Lisa Lyden, 43 and 45 Dusty Miller Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise the existing house at 45 Dusty Miller Road and reconstruct a new house with an upgraded septic system and relocated driveway. Construct a patio, walkways, gardens, and pergola, and associated excavating, landscaping, grading, and clearing.
Yes, I will. Oh, it's Hawaiian night now. I didn't get the word. I would have worn my Hawaiian shirt.
Slacker. Mine's louder than his.
It is.
Thank you. For the record, it was Tom Bunker, DSS Design. We Mike Card Sudbury Design, and the architect, Kevin Dauphiné, is on also. To answer all your questions.
Can I ask you to speak up?
That doesn't help us.
That doesn't help in here, I don't think.
Doesn't
but
help? Okay.
Only for the TV.
Thank you.
So we're here to present the plans for Jeffrey and Lisa Lyden at 43 and 45 Dusty Miller Road in Racing Beach. This was filed as one notice of intent covering two properties. They're both listed in the paperwork, and it is sort of broken down into the two properties as far as coverage, mitigation plan, mitigation calculations, and the planting plan. Down here, if Dusty Miller Road, Racing Beach Avenue here, and Buzzards Bay, which is a tidal body of water. It's land under the ocean, some beach, riprap, which in a flood zone, a coastal bank along the top of this riprap here. Landward of the riprap is Racing Beach Avenue, the paved road. And then back to this line here is a coastal dune. And north off of the lot is a small vegetated wetland. These areas are delineated by LEC, Environmental Consulting. Recently, we changed the lot line. This on number 45 had been two separate lots, and the house was only a foot or so from the property line. So we changed this lot line to keep it more than 10 feet from this house and more than 10 feet from this house, and with the same lot area also. Existing number 45 has a paved driveway up this location here, and that's right at the top of a slope here, which is a coastal bank. So it's right on the edge of the coastal bank. That this also is the end of the FEMA velocity zone, VE elevation 18, across through here, and of course 25 feet landward there is the Falmouth velocity zone. This existing house is 23 feet from the top of the coastal bank in this location. And landward of the VE velocity zone, this is zone X, the upland where the houses are in zone X. Up north of the lot, it goes into zone AE elevation 16, goes back this way, so across the back of the lot there is a coastal bank. There's a slope of that land is greater than 10 to 1. This bank is more than 100 feet from another wetland resource area. So this bank has no zone A, a no-touch zone, but it does have a 100-foot B zone. The velocity zone also goes up Dusty Miller Road, up into this location here, and there is some coastal bank right here where the velocity zone is up against it, and then this is up into flood zone X. The A zone of the coastal bank wraps around, just barely touches house number 43, and then encompasses much of house number 45 going through here. And as you can see, pretty much all of the rest of the land is in zone B of the various coastal banks around here. The proposal is to raise and remove the house number 45, which is down here, and construct a new house and remove the driveway completely. After construction, we'll keep it as a construction access way, and then this entire driveway will be planted and filled with mitigation plantings. We have this house here. Currently, the septic system is seaward of the house, near the coastal bank, in the lawn between the house and the driveway. The septic system is to be upgraded. The septic tank will be through here, where it's accessible for maintenance pumping from the driveway. But the leaching field is going all the way back to here, where it'll be further from the coastal bank in this location. So mentioning the driveway, rather than having this driveway come up the face of the coastal bank, we're proposing that a driveway will be coming in off of Dusty Miller Road, coming into a garage under the house from this location. We feel, this is a more important coastal bank, especially it's almost abutting a coastal dune, it's closer to the sea. So we feel that this, filling in the driveway, planting the driveway, which is 2,400 square feet of pavement removed and planting put in. And this is a much smaller driveway, shorter, and it will be a crushed stone or shell surface, virtually flat with drainage in it. So all of the stormwater water runoff that currently flows down from the existing driveway will be eliminated, and a much smaller driveway should have basically zero stormwater runoff. We show dry wells, some dry wells, but also some of the roof runoff will be piped down under this driveway. We have some of the H20 leaching chambers for the roof runoff. Between the two houses, we have a patio area and a pergola in this location between the two. This will have some drainage built into it also, which will go into leaching. This patio area is the only work that's being done. This is actually on the, house number 43, the other lot. So this patio area, which is, there's a small deck being removed and then more patio being proposed. You can see on the coverage calculations are broken down on house number 40, house number 45, the Seaward house. There is an increase of 114 square feet in the Zone A and an increase in Zone B of 1,184. Mitigation required total is 2,482 square feet. This darker green, which is mostly in the driveway and the parking circle, is a mitigation area going back here. There is more planting because this slope is being reduced in grade. So this existing bank right here will be regraded, but it's all going to be replanted with the same type of native plants that are going as part of the mitigation planting. And that is another, I think, 2,700 square feet through here. On the house number 43, there's 357 square feet of 119 square feet increase in Zone A, 357 square feet of mitigation, and Zone B has an increase of 532. So total mitigation required is 1,421 square feet. And we've put this in here, which is partly some rhododendron with a mulch area with some rhododendron and expanded, so it'll enhance this buffer as a native buffer through here, maintaining the existing trees, and again, clearing out some of the invasive and other plants off of the lot. But that's another 1,075 square feet of native planting along the roadway down here. So there's also proposed trees, 6 proposed trees to make up for trees being cut back here, and trees in this location, and then down here to mitigate for trees being cut on on this lot, number 45. That's the layout and some of the numbers. Mike can talk about the plant selection and so on.
Thanks, Tom.
Good evening, Mike Picard, registered landscape architect with Sudbury Design Group. On lot 45 and 43, we're using exclusively native plant material, juniper, inkberry, steeplebush, meadowsweet. There's a combination of planting to give it some variety. The only thing we're removing the driveway coming in on 45 and just creating an access path that starts at the current driveway location and trails further away from the coastal bank. We're also going to add along this edge to help define it a series of boulders sort of sporadically to help define the edge so that you sort of know where the native planting is. On lot 43, we're continuing the native planting with the exception of where the new driveway comes in.
Excuse me, sir. Would you mind, taking the mic with you? It comes out of that stand. Thank you.
Needs a third hand.
So on lot 43, we're extending the native plant material, like Tom said, to mitigate for additional area of coverage and also along the roadway. It will help continue to define the coastal bank that wraps on 43 as well as 45. As he said, we're offering substantially more planting than is required, which I think is a very positive thing that the board should take into account. We're also proposing in the seaward area, the area that we're not really touching at all, removal of invasive plant material, poison ivy, briar, that sort of thing. As a whole, we feel we're making positive impacts to both properties and that we're being good stewards of the land. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Jen, do you have anything else?
Can either of you tell me if the trees east along Dusty Miller Road, I know that east of where you have the generator, that 16-inch cedar, that 6-inch oak or 16-inch oak, and that 18-inch cherry have the little circles around them, so you'll be planting around them. But is that the ones that are within the road layout, those are remaining, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so the oaks and the cedars are going to remain along the roadway, kind of like a screen.
Yes.
Okay. No additional questions at this time.
All
I'm
right,
going to save them until after I hear from the board.
Thanks, Jen. Mark?
Please reiterate, the map plot I have shows those 4 cedars right on Dusty Miller Road with big black X's through them. Is that a mistake?
No, there's some cedars.
There's some cedars in between the houses, but then there's 4 right along the road there, which I thought was
That's
what
where
the other
that's where the driveway is going in.
Is this,
Okay,
those are the
that's the existing plan, existing conditions plan, so he is correct. They have those marked. But where's your proposed plan? You're looking at existing conditions.
mark, so I,
And then,
here's
so
this,
they're right, so they're gone over here.
they're kind of gone. They're up here.
No, I thought you were talking about
they
further
go-
east.
They're up there.
It's just the ones in the driveway, I think.
Yeah, those are the ones in the driveway.
This driveway's gonna,
Yeah, the ones marked are for the driveway construction.
this new driveway's gonna go.
And there's one being planted just west of the new driveway.
Planting.
There's one right here.
Driveway doesn't
And there's
require
two somewhere over here. They all get in the way. Thank you. So they are being removed, not remaining.
Well, I thought she was talking about further east. When she said east on Dusty Miller Road, I thought she was about further east. The
No,
trees there,
right
but
facing
those
on
are
Dusty
being,
Miller Road.
the ones that are marked are being removed.
So, I guess that's in contrast to what Jen said. That's all I have. I don't.
Thanks, Mark. Kevin?
No questions, thank you.
Steve?
I don't have any questions.
Jamie?
Two questions. You have, it looks like in the driveway you have 125 gallon for the roof runoff. Is that all you have for roof runoff? Oh, I'm sorry, you have dry wells on the other end.
Other dry wells
Sorry,
elsewhere.
retract my question. AC and rinse station?
The AC, that's right, the AC is right by the, just
Next to the
it's
driveway?
right there,
Okay.
just west of the driveway. I don't know about a rinse station, if,
Good evening, Tom Corvo. In the driveway layout itself, the retaining walls go back, and there's a little niche, and it's actually underneath the porch area. So the rinse station doesn't, you don't see it. It's actually a little right-hand turn, and it's in the, underneath what is the porch that goes around the house.
Thank you, Tom.
there's a porch overhang over the driveway.
Yeah.
So it is right in that location.
Okay.
I'm good.
You all
Thank
set?
you.
Courtney?
So I just want to be clear, the blob of mitigation you show on the upland lot is for the patio and the pergola, is that correct?
Yes.
And then the mitigation that you show on the Seward house, the new one, that's for that house alone? In other words, you're not mixing and, okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to be clear.
It's per lot, yes.
That's all?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Betsy?
I have some questions. So it looks like you're regrading. Are you bringing in any, are you cutting or filling? Or is it everything you have is there on
Overall, it
site?
would be a cut. A removal of.
So you're gonna
material.
remove, how much?
That I didn't calculate. It's, I don't know. I mean, that cutting in the driveway is gonna be removed, and the volume of the basement. There's an existing basement, cellar hole.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know
I'm
how
more
expensive.
concerned with where you're building up this coastal bank. Where the grass path is, where the old driveway was.
That's actually being, that's, I think, being cut back, sloped down more gently.
All right. And what kind of I mean, with the last hearing, the steps that I'm talking about removing are this big, concrete steps. And Raoul was worried about the stability. What kinds of sediment control are you gonna have? I mean, that's gonna be a big area that's gonna be exposed for X amount of time.
It'll be the silt fence, straw bales during construction. It'll be, I'm sure what's it called, netting and.
Well, yeah, what I said, some kind of netting and
Netting
some
and,
kind of grass to stabilize it initially?
To stabilize it.
Once the planting is established, will stabilize the whole.
Well, I
area.
know, I'm not worried about once the plants are established, I'm worried between when it's cut and when there's plants there.
I'm gonna stand up here.
Yeah, stay here.
Hello. To
Site
this-
management.
Again, Tom Corvo.
Tom
as the
appreciates
last
my
thing-
question.
Yes.
Pardon?
You appreciate my question.
Absolutely, yes. Best site management plan is going to be here. I just want to say that this team has worked really hard in making sure what we present tonight can cover any and all of the possibilities on site. This face is going to be the face of Dusty Miller, right? I'm the guy. In there, that is going to be one of the last things that gets taken out. Okay, so when that is taken out, yes, we have to stabilize whatever the netting is. It's going to be graded with this harsh where there's been a cut. We're going to soften that so that it's a more of a slope. That little sitting wall, just to emphasize some of the other. One of the conversations we had was to denote this is it. There is no more. The sitting wall denotes this is the lawn. That's it.
Yeah,
There is
you're
no more. It's not
delineating
going to
it,
be
right.
growing out. That path is windy, and that'll be one of the, just a feature to go down. The boulders, and I'm meaning boulders, not something you hit with a 36-inch mower and move. And in between that, we're even entertaining the thought of having a 1 real foot tall, you know, split
something
in
to
between,
delineate.
in between rails, so that that's a no-go zone. No, that's it. Restoring that A buffer, there's a lot of concentration on doing that. It's not just ripping out that pavement and putting in lawn or just ornamentals. We worked with staff on, both in the office and on site, showing that, you know, we need to integrate that with the invasive. It's gonna look horrible for a little while. It's gonna look a whole lot different than it does right now. It's all done. It's gonna be a healthier community of stuff. When I was putting, I helped Dean stake that. I was the guy going in the poison ivy and bullbriar. You know, so if those offsets are off a little bit, you can blame me. That's how excited I am to do this, to be part of this presentation from this board. Everybody has been so communicative. You know, we've really worked at a good presentation. And I'm talking too long, and I should just.
But I'm not going to let you off the hook yet. Unless you.
That's why I'm here. The
All right.
is something that,
So while the house is being built,
yes,
you're going to use the existing driveway?
yes.
And then once the house is built, you're going to pull back out, and you're going to do this work,
Yes.
and you're going to, and I'm not going to come down there after a deluge and see any mud in Dusty Miller Road, any dirt.
I'm going to tell you that.
I'll check on you,
And I would.
or I'll send Maury out to check
anticipate
on you.
Neighbors
there you
checking
go.
on me, I would anticipate the board checking on me, yes, please. I don't need that headache. You know, I was, truly disappointed when the things went sour. That's why I've muscled these guys as much as I have and put everybody to, and again, this is the face. I'm the guy that's gonna be there. Every time there's somebody working there, I'm gonna be there. It's not one of these things where you're gonna be unfamiliar. That process, taking that driveway out, it's gonna be a sad day for me. Sad and happy. It means that I'm done with what I need to do, but I have to make sure everything that I need under the ground is done. So that little cherry on top, that really is.
That final piece.
That needs to be, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a year and a half doing this. You know, it's gonna be a give and take on certain things. One of the things I wanted the board to be aware of, in the design of that, we know that cutting a driveway into the coastal bank, prior projects that have been proposed on this lot had expansion of living where the garage is. They were gonna convert that into living space. And there was another addition off the end of it, and there was addition off the face of it, and there was gonna be a path through the dune, and it was gonna be the garage under. This is one of the things that we exhaustively pursued when the property was purchased. Is it worth rebuilding as is? How do we do this? It's too substandard for anything. It would be good money after bad to try to renovate.
Yeah, I don't,
So, but I'm really trying to condense everything that we've done. I got all my utilities in the driveway, everything that I can do sliced into the smallest space possible. My septic system as far back as I could, adjusting the lot line, so we pulled back and over from the resource area.
You met your match.
Yes.
I think I way exceeded my match. But I'm not done with questions, sorry, folks.
Please, fire away.
So, I'll go to Jen. What's the protocol for planting in a town layout?
I know that we haven't counted it as mitigation.
No,
in
no,
town,
no,
but it's a
but
private
do we
road,
need-
correct?
Private road.
Oh, it's a
Private
private road?
road.
Okay, then I'll take my question. I'm not gonna send something to Sam. I'll take my question back. That's fine. So you must own to the center of the road then? Probably.
Technically, I think they own to the center of the road.
Yes. That's
But
fine.
usually the board doesn't even allow plantings in the layout within a private road either, but
Well, I
There,
mean,
you
it's
have-
a road.
you have
I mean,
in the
lots of,
past,
there's
yeah.
lots of plantings in private
Plant.
road.
yeah.
And there's plantings in town layout, too.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
don't have a problem, but if it was town, I just wanted to know if they had
No.
the correct position,
Private road.
the correct permission.
Seems to me people do that at their own risk. If the town or the community decides they gotta go in there and tear it up, there's not much they can say.
Yeah, but if it's mitigation planting.
No,
if
it's not mitigation.
You're right.
It's not
You
mitigation.
can't count toward
They don't know
mitigation.
that any of
That's
the
the issue.
No,
plans that
it's
we're
not
proposing-
mitigation. I just wanted to know if it
Protocol.
was town. I wanted to know protocol. And I also do want to point out, I think Tom pointed it out about 4 times, but since this came up last week, most of the area around here, the velocity zone, it's because it slopes up, that next to the velocity zone is an X zone.
Mhm. Yes.
That's it. I mean, you did point that out, but I just want to emphasize again.
I'm just going to make a note of something, a statement in the narrative. This has to also do with mitigation, except I think it's really excess, so it's not material here, but it refers to another 659 square feet of mitigation proposed within 10 feet of the house. I'd just like to point out that if it's within 10 feet of the house, it doesn't count as mitigation. So,
No, it's not.
okay, right, I understand, I'm just saying
Okay, it should be
that
called
the way
mitigation
it's
plan.
worded
Yeah, it should be.
implies that
And
it
actually,
is.
I revised the mitigation planning after
Right.
that, but it
Right.
was on that. There is that much within 10 feet.
Right,
You're right, it shouldn't be called mitigation.
right, okay,
Can I ask Jen something?
yes.
So, Jen, are you comfortable with planting plan?
Yeah, Mark worked with Tom to revise a plan, so it was
Okay.
done under Mark's guidance.
Okay. But,
Pretty
and also whoever mentioned something about poison ivy.
Yeah,
As
it's
much as
native.
people might
It's a
not like
native.
poison ivy, it's a native.
It's a native, yes.
That's to keep commissioners away.
Yeah, totally.
But it's invasive.
Want a motion?
Motion?
Yes, sure.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing, take it under advisement.
Second.
All right. Anything else from the board? Jen? Anything from the public? Anyone like to speak on this project? Yes, ma'am, please come up.
Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
It's you.
We're sharing.
I know, but I had some notes too.
Oh.
You were-
Let's see.
My name is Cornelia Hannah McMurtry, landscape designer. I am a direct abutter of the property of the applicant. I live at 39 Dusty Miller Road, the original house in Racing Beach, built by Annie Whittemore, the developer of the Racing Beach community, where I have lived for 68 years. On a personal note, I'm going to hope I can keep my extreme anger under control. My business is landscape design and installation. and horticultural consulting for the past 45 years in Falmouth, Woods Hole, and in many U.S. states from New York to California. I have appeared before the Falmouth Conservation Commission numerous times. I am a former staff member of the Arnold Arboretum of Harvard University. I wish to express vehement opposition to this proposed project, which includes raising the existing house, as you know, and removing the existing driveway, the latter as mitigation for the new proposed changes, which also includes a new driveway and parking area accessing an underground garage. To accomplish the latter, the vegetated hillside on the south side of the existing house, containing 70-plus years of growth of native and natural plantings, will be demolished. A drastic change and a horrible scar on the landscape. I wrote this presentation before I came to this meeting, but there are so many unanswered questions. The volume of excavation, the stabilizing. Who's going to guarantee that this isn't going to flood into Racing Beach, into Dusty Miller Road? There's so many questions. There's no specs on the plan of the top of the retaining walls. What is the TW of the walls? Are we going to be looking at 6-foot walls, 8-foot walls, 3-foot walls? I was told by the engineer, the builder will decide that. It should be decided tonight what the limit of those walls should be. I'm the victim here, absolutely the victim. 1.5 years, you say tonight, under excavation, replanting, and how horrible it's going to look. Yeah, it certainly is going to look horrible. And it probably will always look horrible. There are just too many unanswered questions. The other changes applied for are an approximately 1,500 square foot of patio with 300 square feet of lawn patches and a 1,500 square foot pergola. Among the proposed mitigation plants, the 1,720 square foot area on the south side of 43 Dusty Miller, please note that the swamp azalea and the 2 varieties of dogwood, including the native Cornus florida, are not seaside plants and will not survive there. Please also note that the new lawns recently installed by the owners on their property reach up to wetlands and have been fed and sprayed with chemicals until I stopped myself, the landscape company, recently. There is also no regard for the regulations against the drift of spray onto wetlands and abutting properties such as my own. It's inexplicable why all these changes are proposed squeezed onto 2 comparatively small lots. The existing house was recently purchased for $2,450,000, had been recently renovated by the former owner. What other changes are going to be? I just cannot believe them. As you have heard from the board tonight, the property in question tonight is in the floodplain in the A zone, and adjacent as close as 23 feet to the wetland. The proposed new house will be 28% larger, 532 square foot more than the existing house, whose existing landscape presently relates well to the existing environment. These changes are also alarming because the proposals are so dramatic and unsightly, adding large retaining walls to contain a new parking area instead of the existing natural vegetation, resulting in an extremely negative impact on the natural vegetation and aesthetics which is in the wetlands bylaws of Dusty Miller Road. 3 years ago, the proposal by the former owner for the same design of a new driveway was turned down by the commission and met with opposition from 38 members of the neighborhood. Many neighbors walk by 43 to 45 Dusty Miller Road on a daily basis to access the beach or to walk both summer and winter. No project has ever been proposed in Racing Beach of this magnitude. The unfortunate design of a new driveway and an underground garage here in Racing Beach destroys the natural hillside vegetation, is a design which does not relate in any way to the surrounding environment in Racing Beach. I ask, and I say this as a professional, not as an emotional abutter. I ask the board to vote against this application.
Thank you. Did you want to address any of that, like about the wall?
Hello. I'm sorry that this upsets you as much as it has. That's truly not anyone's intention. The retaining walls are going to follow the grade up to, it's just going to follow the grade 8 to 10 inches above on the retaining walls on that. The sitting wall is going to be 18 to 2 foot tall. That's what I got.
Above grade.
Above grade. Their sitting wall, that little ash wall in front, 18 to 24
Right.
inches, yeah. But the retaining walls going alongside the drive, going to be 8 to 10 inches.
So no
Just following the
engineered
grade.
walls?
Pardon?
No engineered?
Oh, they're going to be engineered, but it's not going to be like 14 feet tall and just going straight in. That's not, it's not how that's going to be. We are mindful to the aesthetics of that slope.
Thank you. Does anyone, yes, ma'am. Yes, you can.
Cornelia McMurtry, landscape designer in the profession for the last 45 years, a butter at 39 Dusty Miller Road to the applicant's property at 4345. I beg to differ that those retaining walls, I've already had a hint from a call to BSS Design who said they couldn't tell me, but 4 to 5 feet was a possible guess. The builder would decide that. That isn't a sufficient answer to me. And as far as being 8 to 10 inches, that is, I mean, I'm a professional. That is absolutely, you are cutting away an entire hillside in order to have an underground garage, in order to have a parking lot. I'm sorry, it's absolutely not the case. Could not possibly be. What is 8 to 10 inches? 8 to 10 inches, about like that. That's not going to retain what is a hillside right now, which has an elevation of probably 10 feet. I hope that this will be considered by the board. It is very, very important. Thank you.
Okay. Tom, you want to clarify?
Yeah,
Or-
I'm sorry that I'm not making that clear, if you want to jump into. As it comes in level, the wall will be taller. At its tallest point, it's going to be 9 feet tall or something like that. At the top of that, on the outside, not when you're in between the two walls, but on the outside of it, along the grade, it'll be about 8 to 10 inches. The grade will be here, the wall will be on the interior. The wall will be taller, yes, but what is on the grade side is only going to be 8 to 10 inches taller than the grade. That's it. You know, inside of it, it's like this, and the land will be down here. That's it. It's a retaining wall, yes, going straight in.
And we're looking at a retaining wall.
No, you'll be looking at a decorative stone veneered structure.
At what height?
It's going to start at 2.5 feet or so, and go up to probably 9 feet. It might not even be 9 feet.
At the
I'm
drive,
trying-
at the driveway, correct?
Yeah, and that's it. Please, this is mine.
Tom Bunker. As Tom Cora was saying, the driver's going in roughly level, slight pitch up, basically level to the garage, which is not an underground garage, it's just a garage under the house. So the house is 25 feet back from, I can't remember exactly how far, but it's at least 25 feet back from the street line by zoning. And then
29.
another 10 feet or so back from the edge of pavement. So, the house is at least 35 feet back from the edge of the pavement. And in that distance, starting at the edge of the pavement, the wall will not start that high, that close, but, as Tom said, it's gonna start low. I don't think the wall will be 9 feet because, if we picture the garage door, the ceiling might be 9 feet, but the foundation wall will be lower than that. So it's not gonna be a 9-foot high wall. But it will be, and as Tom said, it'll have a decorative, have a stone veneer, look like a natural stone wall. So if you're driving by and happen to look into the driveway, you'll see that natural stone wall.
Yes.
The question is, and I think Tom mentioned this, these are going to have to be designed by a structural engineer.
Yes.
Just their,
Yes.
Yeah, the retainings.
right?
But driving by along the road, there will not be a straight up,
Yeah.
big retaining wall. It
Right.
slopes up with the.
It's not freestanding at all.
Hmm? Not a freestanding.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Yes, ma'am.
We're on Whittemore Road.
Please wait till you get
Maureen
the microphone.
Maureen Harrington, 9 Whittemore Road. Our land abuts where that green arrow is. So anything they take down is going to come down on our land. I don't think they've even telling us that they were even going to build a new house there. We thought the remaining house was going to be there. They were going to just make it that they could see from the other house. We didn't know there was going to be a new house there. Plus, when they take down all that land, where is it going to go? It's going to go on our land.
Well, that's not permitted.
This is our land here.
I'll clarify that for you. My name is Tom Corvo. Don't go too fast so you can see what.
Take the mic, Tom.
Can I turn this for?
Certainly, and take the mic.
Just so you can see a little bit better. This is the new lot line. This is Racing Beach Ave. This is all their property here. We're not going to be taking anything down in here other than the invasives and mitigation planting and the old driveway. This is all their property right here.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm gonna stand here pretty secure in the fact that
We
that's.
own land on Racing Beach. We have 3 lots that are right on Racing Beach land.
And we're not even touching, we're such a distance. You could be here, but we're many hundreds of feet from where we're all contained on our own property. And all the mitigation, any of the work we do on that property, we have to do the mitigation on that property. And it's been surveyed and all the other appropriate, we wouldn't dare go on your property.
What about all the sand and everything that's coming down?
Nothing's gonna come down. The sand, that's what they're gonna hold my feet to the fire. Again, don't forget this face, because I'm gonna be there I repeat myself, because I'm sick of that. I've been doing this for 27 years in this town. And I've
Get
had-
plastic surgery next week.
I may grow a beard, but I want to put you at ease. All our activities are self-contained. We don't want, that's why Betsy is, and I'm sure the board is going to put in conditions. The site management, I'm the guy that's held to this, no one else, it's me. And that's why I'm here. That's why I want to answer this and give you satisfaction so that you have a comfort level. This project is going to be there for the next year and a half. So I need to make sure that you understand what I'm doing, and I'm doing it to the best of my abilities to make sure that everything is right.
Thank you. Anything else?
I have more questions.
Please come to the podium.
I'm Cornelia McMurtry, a butter to 4345. I'm at 39 Dusty Miller Road. During the presentation, there were several things that I have questions about. There was a mention of trees being cut 10 feet in the north from my property line. I'd like to know more about that. I would like to know, where is this access path, quote, access path? Explain again where that exactly is. And please review again, what cedars are you talking about on the old driveway? And then a final comment, as a professional, I certainly know what a retaining wall is, and I know that it's going to be up against the grade, but you certainly, as you drive by, are going to see massive walls instead of the natural, beautiful, aesthetic, native planting, which will be destroyed. But I would like to have the questions concerning my property line, the trees being cut 10 feet from my property line in the north. Reviewing again what you talked about, the cedars on the old driveway. That's.
Yeah. You fielding these? Thank you.
We're not going to be cutting any trees.
I'm sorry, you need to
Yeah, hi, Tom.
be using the, no, you need to be using the mic. You can just pull it out if you want.
I'm standing.
You can both stand there.
It's almost like karaoke. So, there's not going to be any cutting on anyone else's property. Pardon?
I said cut within 10 feet of my property.
I don't have anything proposed to cut within 10 feet of the property line at 43 to 39. There was nothing being proposed to cut on that side of the lawn. There's mitigation trees going in. That's what I got. I'm not sure where the other...
What about the cedars down?
The ones in the road layout?
Yeah.
We discussed it earlier. The one in the driveway? Yes. The ones in the road layout going towards the other house from 45 to 43? No. That's what I got.
Thank you.
What about the path, Tom?
The
Ms.
path,
McMurtry
the
wanted-
footpath coming down?
Yes.
The footpath is one of
Please
the...
show me on the plan.
Sure, absolutely. My pleasure.
Microphone, Tom.
So, this is the retaining wall, the sitting wall. Here's the footpath that starts right here from the corner of the porch and comes down. We're proposing to put boulders all along the coastal bank in areas where lawn touches it, so as to denote it without putting a physical fence in there, repurposing the boulders that are on site. And then if we need to, just put a 1-foot tall rustic rail so as to denote that, so nobody goes aggressive towards the coastal bank with any mowers or any expansion of lawn. Being aware of that, but this is the footpath right here. It comes out.
May I ask questions as you're speaking?
Yep,
How
you can,
wide is the path? It looks to be about 5 feet, is that?
We're at the largest, it's 5 foot at the largest. And it meanders just a little bit, just to take advantage of some of the slope.
But it's going straight through the wetland.
No, it's going through the old driveway. This is the old driveway that we're replanting.
That's all absolutely right up against the wetlands. That's all cannot be built on, cannot,
it's redevelopment,
Yeah.
according to our regulations, it is permitted.
The path does go through the top of the coastal bank, as does the existing driveway, and it is within the buffer to a coastal dune and the coastal bank.
And it's removing
Yep.
tarmac, and it's
And
replacing.
it's in the flood zone. But it
But it's
does go
there,
through.
it's an existing,
Yeah.
It's the infill of the driveway where I'm gonna be
Right.
putting my jute netting and making sure that everything's.
so the irony is that when I got 38 members of the Racing Beach Association not to allow Michael George, the former owner, to cut a path through that protected area, we're now back to square one where it's going to be allowed, right?
this is a path that's already there.
It
This
pre-exists.
path exists. We walked
The
up,
clarification I'd like to make.
It's currently a
for
paved
Cornelia.
driveway.
The path that was proposed by the former owner cut through the coastal dune. It cut from the existing house directly through that property to Racing Beach. It was not contained in the driveway area. It was actually cutting an access path from the existing house through the dune to Racing Beach, which is why this board had a problem with it.
Exactly, so this is quite different, you're saying.
It's
Yes,
different.
It's currently paved driveway, and it's being replaced with a natural path. You're welcome.
I'm grateful that people are here to help clarify this. This has been a lot on people, and I recognize that, and it will be in the future, and that's why my face is here. I am the guy that's accountable for everybody's action on this property. And I'm sensitive to how people, how much of a disruption. I'm being as forward as I can, telling you the time period, what to expect, site management. You know, it's just something, it's a very personal project for me. I'm just, you know, it's a culmination of almost 34 years in this town for me. And I'm a fairly visible face, even with plastic surgery. I hope I've answered your questions.
All right.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
You will see my face. So, my name is Carol Suter, and I live at 28 Widgeon Road, which is the back road in Racing Beach. And I, not in the summers because of ticks, but I'm in the field, fall, winter, training my golden retriever. So I'm in that area quite a bit. And so one of the concerns that I have, and I should have brought it up before, is the question of if you have a lawn, which is existing right now, okay, and you treat it with pesticides or fertilizers or what have you, the question I have overall is what happens with the runoff? I mean, you know, I know that field cold. And I asked this entire board, never mind this project, because there are gonna be fertilizer, pesticide issues as well. How do you assess that? That's my question to the board.
Yeah, Jen.
There is a fertilizer,
Nitrogen control.
nitrogen control bylaw in town. It is mentioned in our regulations that they cannot put fertilizer on a lawn within 100 feet of a resource area, which this clearly is within 100 feet of a resource area.
Okay.
So that is going to be a condition of this project.
And somebody will be assessing that.
We will look at the condition of the lawn during a compliance time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nitrogen fertilizer.
All right.
One more question.
One more question, ma'am, yes.
Cornelia Hannah McMurtry, landscape designer, a butter at 39 Dusty Miller Road to the applicant's property. Who's going to keep in touch with me? No, nobody has, the only person, Tom Corriveau, kindly, because of an incident that he apologized for, came and explained what the property, this application was going to be. I was totally stunned, horrified, whatever. Who's going to keep in touch with me? Because I am directly affected. I am 10 feet away from the property owner at 43 Dusty Miller Road. I want to know, who can I talk to? The property owner has never mentioned the fact that they were going to do any of this.
That is not correct, Cornelia. We stood at the end of our street.
Excuse me,
and I
ma'am.
told you.
Never did.
Well,
For one thing, you can always contact the Conservation Department office during business
and
hours
can
if
you
you have
be
any.
in touch with
Cornelia,
me?
if you let me step to the mic, I will absolutely, because I'm tired of carrying it. And I appreciate the board's patience with this, but mine is running slightly thin, okay? I don't know how many times I've told you, this is the face of 45 Dusty Miller Road. I, Thomas Corriveau, Corner Post Construction, am the one that's gonna be responsible. You and I have had a relationship for decades, all right? I'm not gonna disappear. God willing, I finish this project and retire. You know, this is nothing that I want to frustrate people. I don't want to be frustrated. This project, the last 5 months of my life I've dedicated to this one project to make sure everything can be satisfied as best I possibly can. My shortcomings, I'm human, but I am here, I am not hiding from it, and I want to make this as best I can. Thank you for being as patient with this as.
Thank you. All right. So we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Ready for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you all very much.
We have a meeting. Tom?
Yes.
Help everyone usher out down 2 halls so we can continue.
Thank you all.
Hey, Jen, we need forms on
We do, and did I get my own quorum sheets? No, I'll go get them.
Yes.
All right, gee, how,
Mill River?
No meeting next week, and,
Oh, we have an Open-Dale River.
so at 8.
We have an open Mill River. It's everyone here. Susan?
We have an Open-Dale River, everyone
Susan,
here.
it's everybody here.
okay.
Right.
All right, so, moving along, the continued,
That's continued.
it's continued,
To 9/12.
Okay, sorry.
so,
Where'd everybody go? How did you get stuck here?
let's just move ahead.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent. Peter and Ann Brundrett, 27 Sunfish Lane, has been continued to September 12th, so we are now reviewing Scott and Sally Holbrook, 36 Eel River Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to raise the existing house and construct a new house outside of the flood zone and associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Here representing Scott and Sally Holbrook in their quest to construct a new house on their property at 36 New River Road, East Falmouth. It was continued because we do stake everything for a week ago, 2 weeks ago. This property fronts on Eel Pond, has a 3-bedroom house in this location, which was built about 1968. Salt marsh down in this location, and a small sandy beach, otherwise native tree cover on much of the lot, although there's not a lot of shrubbery around the house. Driveway coming in here, the septic system is location there. The house is in velocity zone. The elevation it's a velocity zone through this location here, elevation 14. Found the velocity zone 25 feet back through here. Upland from the velocity zone is from this blue line back. AE flood zone elevation 12. The existing house is in the velocity zone, does not conform to flood zone construction standards. What we're proposing to do is to raise the house and build a new house in this location outside of the FEMA velocity zone. There is an open structure, a deck, and a screened porch just barely inside the Falmouth velocity zone, but this is on posts, so there's no walls in this in the Falmouth velocity zone. The main house with the foundation and everything is outside of the velocity zone. This is raised higher than it needs to be. It's a flood zone 12. Your regulations call for it being 1 foot higher than the flood zone. This is 2 feet higher, so a little more than 2 feet higher, so the elevation of the floor in this house is 14.2, which is higher than the elevation of the velocity zone. We have a 3-bedroom septic system up in this location. It is more than 100 feet from the salt marsh. It is not in the velocity zone, not within 100 feet of a coastal bank, conforms to Title V. There's no expansion, no increase in the number of bedrooms on this lot. We're taking, as you see, I've drawn in some A zone. The A zone from the salt marsh is all the way down here. A zone from various coastal banks is here, and it's a B zone from another coastal bank, and a B zone from a coastal bank. So there will be, all structures will be removed from the A zone, and there will only be remaining this structure. The new structure will be in a zone B. There's a decrease in coverage of 1,000 square feet, taking out the house and the patio around the house there. So there's a decrease of 1,000 square feet. No mitigation planting is required, but we do have an open area here where the house is coming out, so you put in 400 square feet of native shrubs down this area. We've also proposing 6 native trees, 2 to 2.5 inch caliber size in this area down here. Air conditioning is up here, and this is a walk out under here, under the deck, under the screen porch, so any rinsing can be done in that location under there, sort of as in the previous project. Dry wells, hay bales, straw bales. Take any questions.
Thank you, Tom. I'm sorry. Let's see. Mark?
Do you want to mark a path down to the beach?
mark a path. There is a sort of a path. I mean, there's a clearing in the understory existing through there. You can see we have sort of a scallop line through here, that's sort of the understory line.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, they walk down there already. I'm not sure we have to.
Mark, there is already an area where you can access the water.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Kevin?
How high are the 2-foot-high retaining walls? I'm sorry.
Is this a trick
I
question?
couldn't help myself.
They're 10 feet.
No
on-
question.
10 feet on one side.
Kevin?
Sorry,
Very naughty.
can you beat that?
No questions.
Are there retained? Steve?
No questions. After that,
Jamie?
Nothing to add.
Nothing. Betsy?
I have a question. This should be a simple question.
Should be.
All along this, what I guess is the property line,
Kirby property.
curvy property line, you have little notes that say length 53.33 feet, radius
Yeah.
47.74, and then there's several others.
Explain that?
Yeah, what
Yes.
is it?
Because it's a radius.
Oh,
This, a year or so ago, a new septic system. This house and the house to the south of that were always on two separate lots, but the lot line crossed this house. It came up crossing the house, so that lot line is
Was
a
changed.
result of winding around
the structure.
the structure, and because of language as far as
Is this describing it in the deed?
because of the language in the zoning
Setback
of
requirements.
talking about corners in a property line, I was advised to make many of these property lines curved so there would not be corners.
Well, it's more artistic, it goes with your colored drawings.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, I mean, every year he brings us something new. This one was new. So do you have to put that in, so presumably this was authorized by somebody? And this
It
is
went to
now in the
Planning
deed?
board and land court.
Yeah, so now this is how it's written.
Yeah, I mean, that length and radius, that's, it's all, roads are always dimensioned that way, with a length and a radius. And so, it's not often you see it on a property line, but sometimes.
So that's written in the deed now? Okay.
Thank you.
Cool, learn something new.
Yeah, it was great. That's all.
Courtney?
No questions, good project.
Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to.
Don't worry about
Okay.
it. We're fine.
I have no questions
So
either.
I'm gonna make a motion to close the meeting and
Hearing.
close the hearing and
Take it under.
take it under advisement.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Anything from the board or from the public out there? All right, hearing nothing. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Very nice project.
Thank you, Tom, that was kind of boring, but,
That's a good
you
one.
know.
It wasn't. How many times do we have a house that's moved
Move
totally
back.
back?
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's great, yeah. Thank you. All right, we're getting there. Next, we go to request to amend the existing order of conditions. First, Michael Follick, 6 Uncatina North, West Falmouth, Massachusetts. Request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP 25-4299, to authorize the after-the-fact construction of 2 stone retaining walls, to construct an additional retaining wall, to reconfigure the proposed deck, stairs, and pool fence, modify site grading, revise roof runoff drainage, and to reconfigure and increase the proposed mitigation buffer plantings in accordance with FWR 1018. And we need to hear about those retaining walls. And it's unfortunate
Prime,
that
talk about that.
after the fact.
Courtney?
But you come with your colored plans, so that helps you. Thanks.
Got it.
Yeah, but he's got boring straight lines.
Still can't find the retaining walls.
My name is Michael McGrath. I am a civil engineer and land surveyor, and that's the front of your
Thanks, Mike. 85 years of experience in Massachusetts. Like this is supposed to be
There's a pretty complete description that's in the request, but the bottom line is this, there was an original order of conditions that authorized this, a previously existing house to be removed and replaced. The swimming pool existed, and during the, so there's a new house here, and the bottom line is that that it's become necessary to put in some retaining walls. There's one that was installed by the general contractor without approval, so we're asking for after-the-fact approval for that wall. This wall is required in that the grade, apparently this face of the back wall was not designed to be walkout, and there's a crack has developed, so we want to put a new retaining wall in here and then put fill against it. And then there's one more other retaining wall that's going to be proposed here in order to help support the foundation in this area. So the bottom line is that what has been done after the fact is, I'm sorry, before this meeting is this wall, and there's been some other grading kind of issues that don't follow the approved plan. So I'm sorry, I have to refer to this.
That's fine.
And there's a proposed overall increase of impervious area in buffer zone A and also in buffer zone B. But we've attached colored calculations that show you that we satisfy your regulations so that there is enough mitigation plantings here to satisfy your requirements for work in the Falmouth Wetlands Resource Area in B. So a critical thing is that we've made this as a ramp in order to get equipment down here for future, well, small equipment to be able to get down into this area. And we've also, there has been erosion that the owner says is coming from off-site, from another site. So we have installed a drain, a leaching system here, a leaching system in there, and then in the event that these are overtopped, it would come out of the, it would bubble out of the ground and flow across. We've calculated that for a 25-year storm, so we don't think that that's, there's much of a risk.
That's what he's asking.
So in any case, I think that these particular the mitigation more than makes up for the unauthorized activities that occurred on site.
That's the wall.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Mike?
Yeah, I think so.
Some of the mitigation you're proposing, so the wall that, the builder wall that was constructed without a permit, we all know how I feel about that, was in an area of mitigation, required mitigation planting. Now you're changing that required mitigation to include an area on your previous plan of reference that was a vegetated top of coastal bank. So you're taking out that vegetation and you're putting in natives Vegetation, you know I don't support that concept. Look at your plan of reference from before.
Unfortunately, I don't have the plan of reference here.
That is unfortunate. Would you like to borrow mine?
Yes.
2017?
I'm looking at June. June 27, 2017.
Yeah.
June 27?
June.
I want to go back to the.
Oh, wait, this is the new one.
I have June. Well,
May 22nd?
May 27th.
No, we don't have it. We don't have it.
we don't, it's not in the file either? Or did she take it
I
out?
have it. I have it.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to keep track.
Yep, I just gave it to Mr. McGrath.
Okay, that's fine.
I won't let him leave with it.
Good.
What Jennifer is questioning is that
Yes, that
this
area.
says top of coastal bank, and there is vegetation that exists here. If you look at my plan, the textures with the little plus signs turned sideways is the mitigation. So I'm in fact not counting
Okay.
that
Just wanted
area
to make sure, Mike. That's all.
as
Okay.
mitigation.
Thank you for the clarification.
So it's
Can you-
all that
can you
Irish
ask-
green with the pluses is the mitigation?
Can you answer me one other question, Mike?
Sure.
And then I'll stop asking you questions?
Oh, you can ask.
Why was the wall built? Why didn't the general contractor, who is the owner, come and approach this board prior to building the wall? I'll take that, Mike.
Good
Thanks,
evening.
Mike.
My name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I'm representing the owner, Mr. Follick, as well. Much like Mike, I was called into this project somewhat late. My partner, Bob Ahmed, has been working on it, but he's out of town this evening, so I got a quick debriefing this morning. So I'm speaking with a little bit of knowledge, which is oftentimes a dangerous thing. That being said, my understanding is that the retaining walls resulted from the runoff that Mike referenced earlier. There have been other construction projects in the area, and there was a substantial amount of runoff that was coming onto the site and compromising what was there, and thus resulting in the owner putting in a retaining wall, not on an almost emergency basis in order to hold back what was on the site.
And when was that done?
I don't have the answer to that question.
And
It's a good question. I
the
don't have the answer.
runoff is coming from the north? Is that-
It's a lot of boulders.
The runoff is
A
coming
lot of
from, largely from the street, from resulting from other projects in the area.
It wasn't coming.
Given a green for me.
Kevin, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to respectfully question that because we were out there, the northern side where the boulder wall is, I mean, that area is pretty stable and vegetated, there's not a lot of construction going on over there. And then you have, that was just a tremendous amount of boulders that were brought in. And the only reason this board was made aware of those boulders was when it was discovered there was a need for 2 other retaining walls on the property.
So my understanding is that it's this catch basin that was serving as the initial impetus, because catch basin had been overflowing, causing runoff down in this direction.
Okay, from the road?
Yes.
From the construction across the street?
Correct.
And still, it's,
I would testify that I did go out and there was a substantial area here that had no erosion control. It was across the street and out of jurisdiction. And my client said that during one of those severe storms that it overwhelmed that and there was surface erosion down. He said that there was actually staining in the tidal area from the silt. Since then, they have built a retaining wall, so I have not been out there in a rainstorm, but his description was pretty graphic, and when I went out there, there was probably, I don't know, 15,000 square feet of bare sand across the street.
Well,
So-
my question is, with the comment that it was almost emergency in nature, again, that is a large amount of boulders that I don't know if somebody could secure on an emergency.
I think that some of the boulders came out of the excavation. There's a drainage system here that he said he had to dig down
Okay.
quite deep.
I'm
So
done.
some of it came from the excavation on site.
And they just hadn't taken them off-site yet.
And now
They
they
were just
can't take
convenient
them
to
off
put 'em
site
on
because there's not enough room.
And if I can just follow up on that. The description of, on an emergent basis, my description, not the owner's description. That was my understanding based on what had been conveyed to me in describing the runoff and the impetus for the retaining wall.
I think Kevin's doing the best that he can with
Yeah.
zero
Sure he is.
information. With no facts. You ought to go to Washington, Kevin.
Some facts.
And that maybe his answer will be different tomorrow.
So,
Did I say wood? I meant wooden.
All right, you have it in the habit. It's Kevin, have it.
well, you're right up to the minute here, aren't you?
Unfortunately, yes.
I'm going to put a motion, we haven't asked, people haven't asked questions yet.
People haven't asked
Sorry.
questions.
Pretty obvious.
Right.
Do they have
Well,
questions?
I mean, you know,
I'm going to put a motion on the table to close the hearing and take it under advisement. If people have questions, they can ask them now.
we have a motion.
That was my motion.
I'll second,
Okay.
if that's what you're
Now,
looking for.
Jamie's gonna be the
Okay.
seconder of
Follow
record
that.
here. So, you know, in these circumstances, so we have the mitigation. I guess the only other question you know, that we should be considering is the scope of work. Is this, you know, small enough to be considered as an amendment?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah,
we need to
I
do
think
an-
whoever, whether it was Kevin or Mike, whoever said, hey, these are boulders that we already here on site, we
Right.
just didn't take them off.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly a scope of work question. But anyway, that's okay. I'm just,
But in
Madam
the
Chairman,
Just
the
covering
staff feels that it's within the scope of work
yes,
of the
I'm just
original
covering the
project.
base here on what we need to consider, that's all.
Yep.
in the description of what you're proposing to do, there are retaining walls that basically are going to bolster the existing foundation?
Yes, the architect wrote that there's a crack in this foundation, that the design that, he thought this was going to be normal grading. What in effect happened was the grades dropped down dramatically, so it's developed a crack here. So he wants to put a retaining wall, then put fill against it. So
Okay.
this is a new retaining wall.
That
Has a-
retaining wall is needed on that site.
And then it's the same on this side.
Okay.
All right, anybody else have anything? All right, all those in favor of closing the hearing and taking it under advisement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Oh, wait. All right, next request to amend the existing order of conditions. Jonathan Tower, 66 Kroll Road, East Falmouth. Request to amend the existing order of conditions, DEP 25-4255, to allow for construction to begin before the coastal bank stabilization project is completed. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I have a file.
Oh. Can I give it to you?
I just put on I'll even write the names down for you, Madam.
I was going to say, you have to write the names
I'm
down.
writing down
He's looking for points.
Did you date this and
Kevin's
put one,
Yeah.
date this? and
He nailed
date
that one.
Yes, he did.
No.
Kevin gets the attaboy tonight.
Oh, and I can get this for you.
My name is Michael McGrath. You know me. Tonight, I'm accompanied by George Akitas. George actually filed the letter that was requesting the amendment. So,
George Gakitas, Gakitas Stewart Design Group, we're the architects.
Good evening.
Good evening. Simply put, we would just like to request that the erosion control be built at the same time as the house. And it's, for logistics, it's so equipment isn't there doubled and the financial burdens put on the client. We'd like to have it finished before occupancy, and if that can be stated in your conclusion. We also decided to move the house back 2 more feet from what was approved from the last hearing we were here at. And, you know, that's really the gist of it.
That's good.
That's good. I'm curious why you're moving the house.
Mark and I asked him to move the house.
Oh, okay. That's a great reason.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, the board had requested that, the board was concerned with the impact of the March storms to that coastal bank and having it severely more eroded than when we originally reviewed the bank stabilization project. The board was grappling with it, and you asked. We came up with the solution that the project be phased with the coastal stabilization project, and that prior to the construction of the new house, that a survey be done once that stabilization project was completed, so that we could resurvey the top of that coastal bank. And then the number 2 said a new survey plan of the stabilized bank shall be submitted prior to the Conservation Department approving a building permit for the new structure. So the applicant had the choice whether to demo the house or leave it and then do the stabilization project. I think there's some concern with a funding matter regarding that. I do have a question for Mr. McGrath, though. Mike,
yes.
when did you do the survey for the proposed house? When did you survey the coastal bank for the proposed house? Because it looks an awful lot, almost identical to the survey that was done for the stabilization project. And if that's the case, that bank has changed.
I'm not exactly sure the dates, so I'll have to get back to you.
Okay. That would be my question, and that's after fielding some concerns from some commissioners that have gone back out and looked at the site. That's kind of important to know, because that's kind of what's driving these conditions, is that this bank took a real hit in those March nor'easters, and this board was very concerned with the location of this new house on that bank after the March storm. So it all has to do with when that survey was done and whether the top of this coastal bank is in fact where it is in the field, and the topo of that bank face is accurate.
I'll bet the top's not that different, but it's certainly different underneath.
Yeah, it's certainly different underneath, so.
That's what
So we're going to want to continue this.
It's really
Seems-
up to, it's
well,
up to you guys. I'm
if you
just
can't
asking
answer your
Mike when the
question.
survey was done.
I mean, I was there in the spring before the winter, and when I first saw the project, and we walked, photographed that whole coastal bank, and I think you're correct, the edge hasn't really changed that much. It's more of erosion on the lower end.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why we're moving the house back 2 more feet, you know, in case this winter becomes similar. That's kind of our solution to that issue. But the biggest request that we're asking is that we can, install the erosion control during construction for logistics, for scheduling, for financial reasons, and it just makes sense logistically to do that.
Any questions down the table?
Yes. Mark?
Well, I was out there again today, looking at it, and I'm concerned that if you put there's been a lot of erosion in that bank, and that bank is now probably steeper than 45 degrees, quite a bit steeper actually. And even at 45 degrees with the core rolls and all that, they won't hold sand, they won't vegetate, it'll just be a mess. And they'll wash out. And I'm concerned that if you start construction, you'll be tempted to move out onto the beach with your protection, just to get an angle that's, you know, they start putting it at 50 degrees or 60 degrees, and say, this is terrible, let's just nudge it out to the beach another 20 or 30 feet so we can get an angle that will survive. And I think that's a real problem. I think, you know, 2 feet, that's going in the right direction, but it's probably 10 feet shorter than you need to do.
Well, we're trying to compromise and have the board be happy with this. I mean, you approved the house where it is currently, right, from the last meeting, so we have it there. I mean, 10 feet would be, to move it back 10 feet, my clients probably would not agree to that, but, I mean...
This is just sort of personal observation.
You know,
I can't imagine why they're trying to stay so close to
the
the
erosion
bank. It just
control...
sounds crazy, you're killing yourself.
Right, well, listen, they paid and had designed the erosion control system that you approved before, and it's a well-known installer, and I think maybe in combination with going out to the field when we're installing it, that we can make some adjustments.
It's not really solid, excuse me. They show a drawing, and I was looking at that again this morning, and they say, well, it's 45 degrees, except if we can't. We're going to try to get 45 degrees. And, you know, the slump angle of sand is more like 38 degrees, so it's not going to cover those cores. It's not going to stay on them. It's just going to wash them bare, and then you're going to have to put sand on them every 3 months. And you don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's not
you.
my...
You know, somebody's going to have to do that.
Yeah.
It's
Michael, I don't know, can you address
it's
any
tough.
The bottom line is, we could easily set survey monuments down at the base of the bank right now.
To show that you don't go back.
Yes.
Out on the beach.
And I'd propose a set of aluminum survey markers. They're, I don't know, they're about that long, and there's a magnet on the top so you can find them, and we drive them in flush. So we could easily do that from Salt Marsh number 4, you know, all the way over to the remains of concrete.
I think the top of the bank is going to move if you actually start this erosion control system at that limit to which it's designed, the steepest you can possibly make it. If you start at the edge of the beach, where it is now, where the beach is now, and you go up, you're going to find the top is under the deck right now for sure, and well under the deck, the current deck. Just because the angle, it's...
I mean, there are trees.
It's tough.
There, and there's
So I'm wary about starting building the house first and then go back there and put the erosion control in and find, well, we don't have enough room, so we're going to have to fix it.
We want to do it simultaneously. We want to do the two at the same time. We don't want, you know, to do that first and then come in with more equipment and scheduling. And so this is like, winter's coming soon. We want to really get started, and if just throw our whole schedule off. You know, we don't get a foundation and before it freezes. You know,
I can understand why you do it once. That's... I mean, this chart, I don't understand this plot. It shows mean high water stopping short of the bank. It never stops short of the bank. It always goes right up into the bank. I mean, I've been there probably 6 times in the last 4 months. And the beach is always clean, water-washed sand. Somehow something's getting up to the foot of the bank, not 6 or 8 or 10 feet out like this chart shows. So something funny is going on. And you can't do anything within mean high water, right? You got to be...
Well, I'd like to resolve this issue tonight and come up to some kind of compromise. I mean,
You haven't heard from anybody else.
sorry.
Does anybody else have anything they want to say? Kevin?
No.
Steve?
No, I think Mark's bringing up some good points.
Yeah. Jamie? Courtney?
I understand that you want to get this thing going, but I still feel strongly that this ought to be put in first, or at least gotten well underway.
I don't have a problem with this, if they're gonna do it together at the same time. I think it's a risk, that's why I asked them to move it back. I would prefer to you to move it back even further than this, but I think, as far as your angle, Mark, I think if you delineate where we had given permission for the toe to be, and then you just work upwards from there, and you might have to put a couple of layers of those things in to fill in. But the distance from where the bottom of the green line is to where the top of the bank is, I mean, you could have a 45-degree slope, and you just have to stuff in extra logs, and they may have to stuff in extra logs.
I guess the thing I'm thinking of is the green line is, I believe, below mean high water.
Well, it's the salt marsh line,
Well, it's
at least on the left hand,
a
on
question
the
of mean
bottom
high water,
side.
what that really means, but from an observation point of view, the water always gets higher than that. It always comes
Yeah, but
right
the
up
water
to the
goes-
foot of the hill.
Yeah, but it's mean high.
I
That
know
means
mean high, but mean
half of
high
the time
means
it's higher
sometimes
than
it should
mean
be
high.
lower than that. And it's,
And the tides recently, if you went today, the tides are out of control right now in terms of high tides and low tides.
And that happens.
Yeah.
I know I said I didn't have anything.
Certainly. Go ahead, Jamie.
No,
No, I'm done.
okay.
Yeah.
My comment is simply that, methodology-wise, I can see the things being done at the same time. For us, what kind of, don't be insulted by the way I say this, what kind of assurance do we have that it will get done, Because
Well, we'll
even
get
if he
that.
does it beforehand, then the construction of the house could potentially disturb that area. So if it's done at the same time, in theory, if it's disturbed, it gets fixed, instantaneously. But my issue is, I'll just say it straight out, we give you permission to start, and what assurance do we have that you'll actually do that piece of it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, we have to get an occupancy permit, we have to have conservation sites.
But in the meantime, what happens, if there's more storms and what have you?
Well,
You know.
again, it could be an earthquake, you can't say that.
You do realize that there's a condition in the order of conditions that say you are never going to be able to armor that bank. You're taking a huge risk, given the nature of that bank. This board struggled with permitting this house because of that issue. You guys asked me to come up with a way where you felt comfortable going forward. This is what I thought you guys would be comfortable with. If you want to allow the start of construction, it's a huge risk on the property owner. And a huge risk is, they're building a brand-new house. This is not going to be considered a pre-78 or a pre-989 house, which means if that bank starts to go,
So in a manner of
this
speaking,
house
it's at his own
means
risk.
it's going to
Yeah.
move back.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I can't imagine you go through all this and let that thing fall apart anyway, but I just wanted
One
to raise
would.
that issue that.
No, I know, and I
Part of the
understand.
reason that
Is
we
there
do
an
stuff like that
assurance?
is because then you can hold the permit hostage.
yeah, is it
Well,
there
can
an
there
assurance
be-
that they're
can-
going to
Can a
do?
condition be you said they want to get the foundation in, but can can there be a sequencing as part of a condition? So that can go in, but
I will sequence it any way
No,
you
no, no, I'm
guys would like
saying,
with me to.
I'm saying, but wouldn't that be, in
Yeah,
other
but I don't
words?
think Falmouth issues foundation-only permits.
We can, we say it's foundation only, and then the bank has to be done. He wants to get the,
I get it,
Yeah.
Just,
remember, we can issue that because this is all part of the same project.
but if Jen signs off on the permit, he gets a permit for the whole house, no matter what we said.
Yeah.
If what I'm saying is accurate,
you-
that,
You're saying we can't go to the building department and say, hey, they can't go in, if they have to stop because they haven't done this for us.
that's my understanding.
That's what you're saying.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, in the
I
past,
see.
Falmouth, and I don't know about other towns, but Falmouth used to do foundation-only permits, you know, just so you could get started, cleaned up and everything. I don't believe they do that anymore.
Okay.
So I don't know what kind of
Guaranteed we
oversee
could
we
have.
would have that we
Right.
could shut it down.
Let me ask you a question, Jamie, going to building code. Don't they have to do an as-built on the foundation prior to?
Yes, and they have to get a
beginning
foundation inspection.
construction? Foundation inspection.
Okay, I see where you're going with it. So you could put a condition on the application that you do a foundation inspection with the building department.
I can do that.
Follow where I'm going with it?
I hear what you're saying, but it's not just the foundation. I don't know what the sequence of events are going to be and how the contractor wants to schedule the implementation of the erosion control in conjunction with the house. I don't know that. I was just trying to blanket it by saying, you know, before the house is done, we're going to have it finished. It's only prudent for the client to have that done. I mean, they're investing in
Yeah, but
this.
your point about asking to do this all at the same time, to
Yeah.
have equipment there once.
Mhm.
So to do the foundation work, backfilling and such with the restoration would make sense, because the septic is on the other side of the house. So if they did, you know, the foundation, then the restoration, then went to the front and did the septic, they're not regrouping.
No, I understand what you're saying. You know, there's more equipment and so forth. I don't know the contractor's schedule and how he wanted to do that, so I don't want to just say, oh, it's exactly when the foundation's done.
Well, and that's a good question. Is it gonna be the same contractor doing the excavation and doing the restoration work?
No, but they're working hand in
Yeah,
hand.
but I think what we're saying is,
Wilkinson
if you
Ecologicals.
want.
So it would be
if you-
restaging
you
anyway.
want this,
Wilkinson.
that's
Wilkinson will be
the
doing
area
it.
you'd have, that's the sequence you'd have to go. If you want to do this way, if you want us to take out that condition, then you have to agree with this. That after the foundation's done, then the stabilization is done. And there's no sense in building all the rest of this stuff out here, and you're not even gonna be able to get to do the stabilization.
Mary?
Yes, Mark.
Madam Chairman, I like the idea
We're getting an occupancy
you mentioned.
until we sign off on
About,
order conditions.
my biggest
It's
concern,
the
as I said
understanding.
earlier, is I'm concerned that they drop the foundation in and then start doing the bank stabilization. They find that they have to make it really pretty darn steep in order to keep some property back at the foundation. And they make it steeper than they want to, just because they have to get it in. And then they'll come in and say, hey, we just want to make it a little steeper or whatever.
Yep.
But if you went in there and surveyed the beach right now, where the actual start of the hill is, and then surveyed where the top would be,
Okay.
building a stabilization project as permitted, then you could see, here's where the foundation's gonna go, we're all happy, and then we'll just go.
How about this? How about we, instead of moving the house back 2 feet, we move it back 5 feet. When we get the foundation in and we do the survey for that, we'll survey the coastal bank as well, and we'll get going on that shortly
Why
thereafter.
not just survey, I mean, I don't know what 2 feet or 5 feet or 16 inches, I don't know, but if you just had somebody pin out, here's where the bottom of the bank is, here's what the stabilization looks like, here's what the top's gonna be, then we can go, everybody can go out happy and say, yeah, we're gonna clear the top, nobody's gonna wanna come closer, et cetera.
How long does it take to do
Wouldn't that make sense to It's not a big deal to do it, and it means you don't have to dig out a foundation if
Yeah,
you're
but
not
how long
happy
does it take
halfway
to
through.
do the actual work? Why not just do it first? Why not just do the stabilization first?
There's financial reasons involved. For instance, I don't know, if the certain part of the house is done, certain refinancing can occur. Not everyone is financially wealthy to be able to do everything at once. Or sequence it like that. It's going to be more expensive to do it separately and not at the same time. That's a given. So.
Yeah, but if we're only talking a couple of weeks, then your mobilization, you've got your stuff there, you're mobilizing, you do the
And
bank.
if it's different contractors, you mobilizing anyway.
Well, then,
The original
Why are we-
permit
why are we
stabilization
even
permit
talking
was
about
issued in March of 2017.
When?
Because that's what
March
you
of
brought up.
2017.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Over a year ago.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you've had over a year to do this.
Yes, from my understanding, I mean, I've only been involved in the project since the spring before the winter, the fall rather. So I can't speak to that whole process. Mike was involved in that.
I was away all winter, so I don't know what's happening.
Jamie, to your point, there are two different contractors. Wilkinson Ecological is the contractor on the stabilization project. I can say with almost 99% certainty, Wilkinson is not going to be the GC on the construction of the
Right,
house.
right, right.
That's not what they do.
So
Well,
how is that logistically helpful if you've got two different sets of contractors?
You know, there's one contractor that's in charge of the other contractor. I don't know that stuff, so. But I do know that the equipment is going to be shared. The excavation equipment and that type of thing, from my understanding. I don't, they're trying to save money, so.
It's hard.
what kind of excavation equipment?
Well, I don't know, just moving things around.
I think he's just got to do it.
Don't they just drag those things from the truck to the?
They have little mini excavators and
Is Wilkinson going to be doing the work on the stabilization?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Wilkinson is required,
Yeah.
the
that was
work
the
is
order of
required to
conditions.
be done by Wilkinson. If they choose a different contractor, they have to come back to this board for permission to use an alternate contractor. The presentation to this board was made by Wilkinson.
So that means in all likelihood it'll be two different contractors on this project.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
No.
sure.
Only does Lansing.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
again,
presumably-
you're not,
Well, couldn't Wilkinson be a subcontractor on a whole overall project?
Yeah, that's what I think they're saying.
How long is it going to take to do the stabilization?
Takes a couple of weeks.
2 weeks.
It's the back lot.
I would mobilize Wilkinson, get him down there and do it and move on. Save yourself a lot of
There's a lot of
heartache and the board a lot of heartaque.
May I answer? There's a lot of coordination and scheduling. That's I know he at Wilkinson is very straight out, and so we just don't want that to infect schedule,
I've been trying to get a contractor to come to my house, and I'm being told over and over again, October's the earliest. And I know Wilkinson's very busy. I think that's the issue.
You would hate to have this house to be partly built two feet further back and to have a storm and another big bite taken out. I mean, we had to go there a year ago. We saw what it looked like a year ago. We all went this time and were shocked by how much was lost.
Well, as I mentioned, I really would like to compromise and come up with a solution. I'm willing to move the house back 5 feet instead of 2 feet, and there's no way unless an unnatural disaster happens that there's going to be that much erosion. And I think it'll also help with the angle if that is needed. And all we're asking is that we just allow that to happen during construction, and not necessarily tied into the foundation, but just, obviously before the house is done. And it's really because we have to use that contractor, and we're we have to wait for him as well.
Your client could use an alternate contractor as long as it's presented and approved by this board.
Yeah, but he's not worried about that.
Doesn't mean they're
He
not-
wants this approved,
Yeah.
but not this, actually.
No, I know.
Now they're changing it.
It's up to the board. I'll sequence it however you would like me to, guys. I was trying to get you
Well, we
through it
have
the last time. and
two
this is what we
choices.
came
We
up
either close it now, right?
You know,
We can just close it and discuss it in deliberation.
right?
And we're saying 5 feet rather than 2 feet.
Correct. And the reason why we're here is because you deliberated and made this decision without us knowing. And we would have addressed it in the meeting if there
Well,
was a
because it
concern.
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
What we're suggesting makes a lot more sense for your client. It's better for the client, your client, and it's better for the environment.
And the reason the board conditioned it was because the board multiple times during the hearing requested that this house be moved further back from that coastal bank. This is a fairly large property. There's plenty of room to move back. It was mentioned by at least 3 different commissioners 3 different times that they were concerned at the proximity of the foundation and the patio to the top of the coastal bank. They struggled with it. They struggled with it in the hearing. At the hearing, there was no willingness to move the house back at all. That's what they came up with to make this board feel comfortable about permitting and approving this project.
This is a family house. They've owned it for, I think, another generation. The brother lives next door. They have memories and, of the location of the house, where it's at, the views, the vistas, everything about it, So moving it, the property is large, obviously, but moving it would change that, those memories to the family. I mean, it's not a scientific answer, but that's just the
Could be a costly mistake for the
Yeah,
family, too.
right, it's
Put
risky.
hundreds of thousands of dollars into something.
But again, you've made it plain that they cannot armor the bank. It's a suitable condition, it's not in there. And if they're willing to take the risk, so be it.
I think we should close the hearing.
I do too.
So I'm going to make that motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
I'll second that.
Go ahead, Courtney. What do you want to say? Oh,
I mean,
I thought you had another comment.
16 months have gone by since the order was issued to do a 2-week job. I'm not awfully sympathetic.
Well, it's, as he said, it's a 2-week.
I understand that Wilkinson's busy. but
$150,000 job.
I don't think 16 months is busy.
Well, no, there's cost involved.
A lot of costs.
The costs are going to be there, whether you build the house before, middle, or after.
Yeah, but people's financial
That's not our
conditions
choice.
change. So,
All right, well, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Anybody else have anything before we take a vote? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so
Come
moved.
nicely, I wrote the amendment names.
nice. And we're gonna have to put that to- now you have to put enough money to put one for this date.
Yeah.
Go complete.
Thank you, Betsy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, now was he saying that,
I'm
we
not
do
very
the
sympathetic
foundation,
to
you
that.
can get a second mortgage, but they're not gonna get a
I
second
didn't
mortgage on the
start out
basis of
tonight in a good mood.
stabilization.
And meeting
Did I hear
hasn't helped.
something like that?
Something like that, I think what it is.
Oh, Cornelia, oh, Jesus, there's another one.
Yeah, but I also get,
Then, you don't have any date?
And I understand people's attachment to things, but
Madam
not
Chairman,
move back 5 feet because it's always been there. I don't know.
Madam Chairman, I have a correction on the extension.
Oh, okay, the 4-year thing?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a little odd.
No, it's 3 years. It's not 4, it's 3.
Okay.
That was your staff's error, and I apologize for
A
that.
little typo.
It was a little typo. I just reread their letter, and I can read it to you. They do, so they are, this is a.
Brendan, can you spell check her from now on, please?
You know, and I do my best,
Wouldn't,
guys.
yeah, it certainly wouldn't get picked up by the program. So, do you have a recommendation?
Well, we have to announce it.
Yes, you're right. Pamela, this is a request to extend the existing order of conditions. Pamela Jaberti, 15J Road, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, DEP number 25-4155, requesting a 3-year extension.
So this is going to be a new property owner. The order of conditions for this 15J Road, and if the board remembers, it's that enormous property that has the riverfront, the vernal pool, the salt marsh, everything, and then they have.
We only issued that a couple months ago, right?
No. This is one that
3 years ago.
expires in
I'm sorry.
January of 19. So we issued it back in 16, January of 16.
Okay,
And the property was on the market, and there is, I believe, a purchase and sale from a new owner. So,
is there some reason why they're requesting it now rather than like December?
Because they want to do the sale.
assuming, they're trying to do the sale, and they
Yeah.
want to make
No, they
sure
have a
that they
permit
get
with the
an
sale.
extension on the permit so that they
I get
can
it.
design their house.
Okay.
Okay.
Why is it 3 year? Why not 1 year and then we see whether they've gotten anywhere with it?
Because
They've
they've only got 6 months left.
They have 6 months left. I told them that they could
Because they're
request
starting
an
all over again.
extension, but I don't believe I told them what time period. So I think they just assumed they could get a 3-year extension. You can extend it for a year. I could read the letter.
What, I mean, don't we normally have
Yes.
extensions for a year?
Yeah,
So
it's just
let's
for
have
1
an
year.
extension for a year,
Okay.
and we'll see whether they
Okay.
get anywhere. Otherwise, they'll have to come back in and
Yeah. They said
And that,
assuming a
that
free
will
title
get
rate
them until
bills
what,
are
January 20?
expeditiously resolved, it is anticipated it will be at least 60 days before we close on the property. Then, of course, designing a single-family home and completing construction and all landscaping before January of 2019, when the existing OOC expires, is extremely unlikely. As you advise, please consider this a letter, as I advised, please consider this a letter requesting the above order of conditions be extended, and then an additional 3 years for a new day.
1 year.
So I make a motion to extend for 1 year.
1 year, that's fine.
And then they can come in.
Sure.
A year from now and say, we've made this much progress, or a year from now, they come in and they say, well, we actually haven't started on the progress. And we say, well, that's okay, then we'll let this expire.
That's fine.
And
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'll second that motion. And then I just wanted to say that it sounds to me like they may end up wanting to come in and amend it anyway, because they may tweak the design.
Right.
Right.
So 1 year sounds good to me.
All right. Anybody else? All those in favor of a 1-year extension, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Great, okay. Vote orders of conditions. First, we have 45 Little Neck Bars Road. This is this thing.
This is the rolling
The electric
line for the
Right.
utility easement.
Right.
Basically, we're gonna do a rolling erosion control. They have to plate it at night, or, cover the trenches at night, fill the trenches at night. And then Maury wanted a marker at the, Brendan,
Pull boxes.
thank you.
Yeah,
A
for
marker
snow
at the-
removal.
At the pool boxes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, pool boxes, and, we might wanna have a finding that dewatering is not,
Finding no
Necessary.
dewatering, yeah. Or finding that they, yeah.
we also wanted an as-built for the file.
No dewatering anticipated.
And it's, I guess we would say it's not would require an amendment or something.
No,
Yeah.
if they
Or no.
need, if they,
As
if
the-
they
or
find they
The
need to
road
do
has
water,
to
they're
be,
gonna
and
have
then
to
there
have
has
an
to be
emergency thing.
language that the road is regraded in accordance with the,
Plan of record of the,
OOC, original
Right.
OOC for the road.
Wasn't this the one when they first came in, they said it was gonna be a 1-inch conduit?
Yep.
Is this the one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I have a note on my plan that I don't recall what
means.
it means. It just says letter from attorney.
For the homeowners association.
Oh, the
no,
homeowners
no, no.
association, right, right.
No, the letter from, you wanted the letter from Attorney Monahan on the easement rights that the person has in the road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
see, that was a key one.
teamwork. Figure it out.
So I wrote down something.
On easement rights. Okay.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, 286 Grand Avenue, the Casino Wharf Beach cleaning and maintenance and nourishment.
Correct. So basically, we're going to just reissue the permit we issued in the past on the beach maintenance and beach nourishment project. The one little wrinkle on this one was, remember I made the statement that I was going to check with council on whether or not the beach
Yeah, I asked you
superintendent
that question.
had the authority to grant,
Passage over.
passage over
Town land.
town land, and council's opinion is no, it has to be the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Mr. Borselli is aware of that.
Okay.
I told him it was going to be a condition in the permit that they have to obtain permission
That
from the Board of
surprised me.
Selectmen and a license agreement to utilize town property prior to any work out there, and he said they will either do that or find an alternate access on their property. I also said that if they go along the other side of the building and vegetation has to be removed, it has to be an amendment to the project.
Yep, that's good.
Okay?
So good call there, Jen.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I'll move to accept as discussed.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Great. 55 Old Dock Road, Town of Falmouth.
This was pretty straightforward.
This was straightforward. There is going to be a finding, though. It's very important on this project to put a finding that it is a public
Right.
benefit, that it is a publicly, Town of Falmouth owned pier, wharf, and dock, and that this is for, and this is to provide a
Public
public
access.
public access and
Public
public benefit,
Yes.
given the title regime in West Falmouth.
Right. Move to approve.
Second,
All those in favor
as
say
discussed.
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Unanimous, so moved. I heard you.
Second.
All right.
Just say one thing.
Is it gonna be short, Mike?
I submitted a letter on how to fix the estuaries.
Yes,
I hope you all read it.
we will read
And I'd
it.
be happy to come back and talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
We will
Thank you.
I skimmed it.
put you on the agenda when we can. Thanks, Mike. All right, move to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
Steve, why are you giggling at me over there?